This is Land of Havilah, Song of Songs 3. The woman says, verse 1, "By night on my bed I sought him whom my soul loves." Comment, she says, "I dreamed in the night I was looking for my lover." So she's about to describe a dream about looking for her lover. Still in verse 1. "I sought him, but I didn't find him. I'll get up now and go about the city. In the streets and in the squares I'll seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but I didn't find him. The watchmen who go about the city found me. Have you seen him whom my soul loves? I had scarcely passed from them when I found him whom my soul loves. I held him and would not let him go until I had brought him into my mother's house, into the room of her who conceived me. I adjure you, daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes or by the hinds of the field, that you not stir up nor awaken love until it so desires." Comment, verses 1 to 5, she was looking for her lover in a dream, and she dreamed she woke up, got out of bed, and went out in the middle of the night to find him in the dark streets. The city watchman saw her and stopped her to make sure she wasn't a prowler, we suppose. She explained herself and asked if they'd seen him. They let her go, and scarcely had she passed on from them when she found him. She latched on to him, brought him to her house and into her mother's bedroom. She wasn't in a romantic mood so much as she was desperate to have him with her, couldn't live without him for a minute. Then in verse 5, she warned her peers, the daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and hinds, which are types of deer native to the region, that they wouldn't awaken love or stir it up until it so desires. She doesn't want her feelings about him to leak out. That would be completely embarrassing. Love needs to be not just her idea, but his. A girl can't just go out in the street and grab onto love like that. That's not how love works. As far as that being an allegory for God and his people, God said, quote, "You shall seek the Lord your God, and you shall find him when you search after him with all your heart and soul," Deuteronomy 4:29. And God said through Jeremiah, "You shall seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. I will be found by you, says the Lord," Jeremiah 29:13 and 14. And Jesus said, "Seek and you'll find," Matthew 7:7. God's already expressed his love. He said, I've loved you with an everlasting love, Jeremiah 31:3. So rushing love isn't the problem. At even the most unusual and inconvenient time, he'll be found by us if we seek him, and he will be willing. And it was interesting in verse 4 that scarcely had she passed on from the watchman that she found him, as if the watchman represented angels and angelic assistance. As soon as they found out what she wanted, somehow she found him. The meeting between God and us is supernatural. The next 6 verses round out the chapter and are in the voice of a narrator. Verse 6. "Who is this who comes up from the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all spices of the merchant? Behold, it's Solomon's carriage. 60 mighty men are around it, of the mighty men of Israel. They all handle the sword and are expert in war. Every man has his sword on his thigh because of fear in the night. King Solomon made himself a carriage of the wood of Lebanon. He's made its pillars of silver, its bottom of gold, its seat of purple, the middle of it being paved with love from the daughters of Jerusalem. Go out, you daughters of Zion, and see King Solomon with the crown with which his mother has crowned him, in the day of his weddings, in the day of the gladness of his heart." Comment in verses 6 to 11, it's a royal wedding day. It's remarkable how little royal weddings have changed in the last 3,000 years. Solomon arrives in a grand horse-drawn carriage accompanied by a military guard of 60. In verse 8, every man in the guard has his sword on his thigh, quote, "because of fear in the night," end quote. They're going to overcome the forces of darkness and make sure this marriage happens. Nothing can stand in the way of it. So again, these probably represent angels and the spiritual warfare it takes to seal the deal on a man being joined with God. They'll overwhelm any opposition because they're mighty men in verse 7, and in verse 8 they all handle the sword, have it strapped to their side, and are expert in war. They're up to the job. In verse 10, love's the centerpiece of the carriage, quote, the middle of it being paved with love, also translated inlaid with love. Love's one of the materials of the chariot central to it. And in verses 10 and 11, the daughters of Jerusalem are out in force to witness this. It's the ultimate spectacle of an idealized marriage. Jesus said there's joy in heaven over one sinner who repents, Luke 15:10. As joyous as the daughters of Jerusalem are to witness this, so angels are joyful when one sinner comes to God. Solomon's glad in his heart on this day in verse 11. In the allegory of God and us, who in his right mind doesn't want union with God like that? He's a glorious God. What force of darkness can stand in the way? When God determines it'll happen, he'll come in his might and make it happen. He and all heaven will be joyful about it. Song of Songs 4 is next.